Hello, today's video I'll talk about SQL versus NoSQL or relational versus document data model. SQL is based on relational data model. Relational data model data is organized into relations or tables. And each relation is an unordered collection of tuples or rows. Here is a table. There are two rows, and the two rows are unordered. Relational data model or SQL was developed in the 1970s with a focus on reducing data duplication. NoSQL, or not only SQL, it is based on document model. It is used to describe open source distributed non-relational databases. Here is a simple document, a JSON representation. NoSQL was developed in the late 2000s with a focus on scaling and allowing for rapid application change driven by Agile and DevOps practices. Here is an example. Here is a LinkedIn profile, and let's see how to represent it in the two different data models. First, let's say relational data model. And for a profile, it can be identified by a unique identifier, user ID. And fields like first name, last name, summary, region, industry, and photo, these fields appear exactly once per user. So they can be modeled as columns on users table. So for other fields like job, position, and education and contact, one user can have multiple position, multiple education, multiple contact information. So this information are in different tables. And for the use a foreign key reference to the users table. How to fetch a profile in the relational example. We can perform multiple queries. For each table, we query by user ID. Like we use this user ID to fetch the user basic information, and use user ID to fetch position, education, and contact information. Then in application code, we can use all these fetched information, or we can use a join between the user's table and the other tables. Like we use join, we join user table, position, education, contact info, and we join them by the same user ID. Now here is the document model, and here is a JSON document. And we can see the user first name, summary, region, keys, and positions are also keys. And for positions, it's like an array. There are multiple values. For education, contact information, they all have multiple values, and all these relevant information are in the same document. So currently there are MongoDB, RecentDB, CoachDB, and other to support this data model. How to fetch a profile in the document model? All the relevant information is in one place in the same document, so one query is sufficient. But you may notice this region and industry, they are the values are ID, and so we need to fetch the region and industry value based on the ID. So this is done in the application code. Relational versus document databases. So there are many differences to consider when comparing the two different databases, including their fault tolerance properties and handling of concurrency. So here in this video, we'll only focus on the differences in the data model. For NoSQL document data models, they have schema. It has schema flexibility and better performance due to locality. And for SQL relational data model, it has better support for joins, and better support for many-to-one and many-to-many relationships. And for which data model leads to simpler application code? The answer is it depends. If the data in your application has a document-like structure, like a tree of one-to-many relationships, or if your application don't use many-to-many relationships, it's probably a good idea to use a document model. If your application uses many-to-many relationships, and if your application has highly interconnected data, so the relational model is acceptable. Let's talk about schema flexibility. The document databases are sometimes called schemaless, so it's not accurate. So when write a document, you can use arbitrary keys and values, but when you read it, you must assume some structure of the data. Document databases is schema on read. The structure of the data is implicit and only interpreted when the data is read. Relational databases is schema on write. The schema is explicit and the database ensures all written data conforms to it. If application wants to change the format of its data, they use different approaches because of the schema property is different. In a document database, you would start writing new documents with the new fields and have code in the application that handles the case when old documents are read. The example is for old document schema, there's a field name. And in new document schema, we do not use name. We use first name and last name. So here is the code how to handle the old documents. So we can check the user has name field and doesn't have a first name field. So these documents are old documents. Then we read the name and we split the name and we read the first name. It's quite simple. In a relational database, it requires schema change and data migration. First, we need to change the table structure. We alter table, add a column. And for the first name column, we do the data migration to set the values. So here in our video, we talked what is relational and a document model and what are the differences between relational and document data model. So most content of this video is from this book, Designing Data-Intensive Applications. I highly recommend you to read this book if you are interested in system design. Thanks for watching this video. Bye bye.